Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to the Haitian American Museum of Chicago. Our program today, commemorating Nicole Smith, Gallerist, Curator, Visionary, featuring our moderator and panelists, Owen Leroy, Makeba Kedem DuBose, Jesús Macarena Ávila, and Cesar Ramirez, who may join us. My name is Carlos Bossard, and I am the Executive Director of the museum. This afternoon, we are also joined by the founder and president of HAMOC, Miss Elsie Hector Hernandez. Hi, Elsie.
Hello, everybody. I'm here. Do you want me to speak now, Carlos?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. So welcome the panelists and all the members here. Welcome to the Haitian American Museum and honoring Nicole Smith. I'm here to say briefly that I knew Nicole Smith for a brief period of her time, the last year and a half of her life. We met each other, and at which time she was very generous enough to donate some pieces of her collections to the museum. So I am forever grateful for a donation to the museum. And I want publicly to say I thank her for that. And it has brought the museum to a different level. And so I wanted to acknowledge her spirit right now and to say thank you.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Elsie. And again, it is great to see you all this afternoon. Thank you for joining us. HAMOC's mission is to promote Haitian art, culture, and history in metropolitan Chicago and surrounding communities, nationally and internationally, through advocacy, education, and supportive services. Today's program is made possible in part by a grant from Illinois Humanities, the National Endowment for the Humanities, and the Illinois General Assembly. Again, thank you all so much for joining this conversation. Before we begin, I would like to do a little housekeeping and let you all know the format of this afternoon's event. To start, again, this program is part of a grant, and we are very grateful to have received this. And a part of this grant directly supports accessibility. And as you see on your screen, this program is being interpreted by two fabulous American Sign Language interpreters, Sarika Mehta and Rory Burton. This is the museum's second ASL accessible event, and we are proud to continue to bring accessibility to our programs. Also, auto-generated captioning has been turned on. We will have the full transcript available after the program. Additionally, all of you were put on mute as you entered the room. Please remain on mute throughout the program. After the panel discussion, we will open up the conversation to anyone who wants to share their memories of Nicole. It will also be a time to ask the panelists any questions. Please enter any of the questions that you do have or that come up during the presentation in the chat, and we will get those answered. Now, it is my pleasure that I introduce our friend and moderator of this afternoon's program, Owen Leroy. Owen Leroy believes that he is the product of Haiti's Age d'Or, or the Golden Age, for media, art, theater, and music. He landed in Chicago in 1980 and immediately adopted the city Jean-Baptiste Pointe-du-Sable founded as his new home. After spending 22 years in Haiti between schooling, being a journalist, and a co-producer and producer at Radio Nationale, Owen promotes Haitian and Francophone culture in the United States. Everyone, please welcome Owen Leroy.
Thank you very much for everything, for the introduction as well. I just like my dear friend, Makeba DuBose was saying a few minutes ago, when you are playing the video with which you will be also playing again of Nicole, she felt very sad, and I feel as well very sad to be talking about a friend was very close to me, and and someone that you will pick up the telephone, call her, and she's always there. Therefore, today it's a different story. We are talking about memories. We are talking about Nicole, who happens to come to Chicago at a unique time, at a time that in history of this city and probably of Haiti, that will never happen again, because Nicole made Chicago the refuge of Haitian art after Haiti, for the simple reason that she kept a very close relationship with Francine Murat, who was the director of Le Centre d'Art. And at some point, the Nicole Smith gallery was selling with the notion that Francine Murat and Nicole Gallery were basically both Haitian art centers. Now, I had the opportunity and the privilege of knowing Nicole one day. I was a student at Truman College, learning my English. And Nicole was there as a student, refurbishing her English. And two a Haitian friend introduced us to each other. And we had the opportunity of talking about Haitian art, and we realized that both of us had collections of Haitian artists, and we organized an exhibit that was very successful at the college, and the directions of the people at the office enjoyed so well that they keep doing other shows with other artists. With Nicole, we worked on Haitian art. We participate in the introductions of South African art. I was working for the South African government, and I had the opportunity to invite her to meet my bosses, and they fell in love. And then they organized the first exhibit of the art of Father Clouds. And from there, Mozambique came on board, and other artists from Nigeria, and then so on. Now, I will not keep the mic for myself, knowing that Makeba had a very close working relationship with Nicole, and she definitely will tell us more and more about the time that became as well the âge d'or of the Black American art renaissance in Chicago. Nicole was a part of that. She was a key person in the developing of the American art here in Chicago. And I will welcome you, Makeba Dubois, Kedem DuBose, and she will develop the subject even further.
Hello, everyone. I'm Makeba, Kedem DuBose, and I am a visual artist, a multidisciplinary artist practicing in Chicago. I've been practicing as an artist in Chicago probably 30 years or more. And one of the first galleries that represented me professionally was Nicole Gallery. I met Nicole officially in the early 2000s, but we came to realize that we lived I was very close to one of her galleries when she had it on Halsted Street years ago before her Huron days. I would pass by the gallery, frequently because it was, a few doors away from me, and I'd look through the windows, but I was very young at the time and I would not go in. But I would always say, one day I'm going to show my work in that gallery. I hadn't really developed as an artist quite yet at that time. So years later, I met Nicole through, I think I was connected through Sapphire and Crystals, which is a women's artist collective that I'm a member of and have been a member of for quite some time, for maybe 20 years now. Nicole had been showing Sapphire and Crystal artists' work for many years, and I wanted to be a member of Sapphire and Crystals, and I wanted to show at Nicole Gallery. Sapphire and Crystals had a show at Nicole Gallery that I went to, and I remember connecting with Nicole and asking if she would be interested in exhibiting my work. And to make a long story short, she turned me down several times, but I kept coming back. I kept coming back with new work saying, can you look at this? Can you look at this? And finally she was like, my good God, Makeba, you are the most persistent artist I've ever met in my life. I will give you a show. And that's where my history started with Nicole. So the first show that I had with Nicole was a women's show. I believe it was called Consciousness and Conditions. I told her for that show, I said, I'm going to sell every piece of my work in this show. And she's like, how do you know this? I said, because I just know, Nicole, I've already claimed it. And true enough, I did. And as a result of that, Nicole invited me to be assistant director of the first gallery that she opened on the south side of Chicago. I was there for a year. Honestly, it became a conflict of interest for me because I'm a visual artist, and being assistant director of a gallery was not, it interfered with my art making. So we decided to, part ways, and I decided to go on being an artist. The picture that's on the screen right now is at Nicole Gallery too, where I was assistant director. That I don't actually remember the year that was, but it was in the early 2000s. And that is Nicole, from left to right, Nicole Smith and John Martin next to her, me third next to John Martin, and Professor Daniel T. Parker, who is a very well-known art collector in Chicago. Nicole Gallery 2 was on a third floor walk up. So a lot of Nicole's regular clients did not feel up to climbing up all of those stairs. I don't think it lasted for a very long time. It probably lasted perhaps a year after I left as assistant director, and Nicole reopened the gallery on King Drive. And she was there, directing that space. Nicole and I had a professional relationship and a friendship that was more on a personal level. I loved her dearly. I still miss her to this day. I ended up in her space, the last space that she was in, on Damon Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood. And Nicole had become very ill by that time. So I assisted her in the best way that I could, helped her to, do whatever things she needed to do. And Nicole eventually became so ill that she had to leave the space. And I was left there to sort of manage her art and, condense everything and make sure everything was in order for her family to pick up and deal with at some future date. At that time, I eventually took over the space and, took over the rent and everything, and began to do fundraisers for Nicole. And I did one large exhibition, or two actually, but one ended up being Chicago Artist Month featured exhibition. I won an award for it, and Nicole was just very influential in my art career. If I were to name three, people or groups of people who were most influential in my career, Nicole Smith would be counted among my mentors, along with Sapphire and Crystals and Diaspora Rhythms, which is African-American group of collectors. I have some cards here of some shows that Nicole did over the years. Some of Haitian artists. One in particular was Frank Louisant, which was one of her featured artists, and he recently passed away. And this is the card, and this was in 2006. Then there were some Haitian flag shows that Nicole curated and that were featured at Nicole Gallery. I'm not sure how much time I have left, but I have, Alan Stringfellow was one of Nicole's most treasured artists. And there's a bevy of postcards that I have. I probably have a postcard for every show that Nicole ever produced at Nicole Gallery. And a lot of African-American artists and shows that I've curated over the years as well. At Nicole Gallery too, this show was Holiday Glitters, which I curated. This is Fritz Milvois' work, who was also a very dear to, artist who was very dear to Nicole and who she took care of as an artist. And Nicole Gallery 2, the grand opening. This is Alan Stringfellow's work on the cover. So I, as I said, I still miss Nicole to this day. I'm really honored to have been asked to speak on this panel, and I have, committed myself to doing whatever I could to continue her legacy here in Chicago. And at that, I will hand the mic back over to Owen. And,
yes, interestingly, the painting that you have behind Nicole is part of the museum's collection.
Yes.
I had the opportunity to reproduce it in Kedem magazine. That was one of Nicole's favorite paintings by Frank Louisant.
Yes.
And the painting was almost 90 by
it's massive.
By 60. It was a massive painting. And we are glad that we were able to keep that painting in Chicago. And it's part of, it can be viewed maybe by special arrangement with the museum. Isn't it, Mr. Carlos?
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. And, I think that's part of continuing the life and legacy of Miss Nicole Smith is sharing everything that we have. And I'm really happy that you're able to speak today, Makeba, and I really appreciate your time. Just the experience and the passion that I hear in your story is very touching. And I'm very appreciative of you sharing that with us. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Carlos.
At the same token, let's face it. Nicole was unique, and she came to Chicago at a very unique time. In Haiti, the Haitian government was relying a lot on the success of many Haitian artists who were selling very well abroad. And Nicole became here in Chicago an instant success, and especially it was during the time of Mayor Howard Washington. Nicole became a very close friend to the mayor's brother, who was the chief curator at at the museum, at the Disable Museum. And I remember at that time, my help was requested to send a delegation of members of the museum to Port-au-Prince, Haiti, and the visitors were able to meet with the president, who offered support for an upcoming first Haitian art exhibit at the official level. You know, that exhibit received the support of Mr. Washington at the Cultural Center downtown Chicago. That became a very big success. At the time of Nicole was curator at a gallery, we had other people who were pushing very hard into the success of the Haitian painting or Haitian art business. And you had Paul Wagonia, who had two galleries, one on Wash Street, another one on Lincoln Avenue. And with Nicole, with Paul, Chicago was basically became an art mecca, and things were doing very well at that time. But before I even go into more details, I will let Cesar Ramirez tell us a little bit about your experience with Nicole.
Cesar, unfortunately, isn't going to be able to join us today. So I think we can hand it off to the next one, who is here, Mr. Jesús Macarena Ávila.
Oh, Jesus, I thought it was Cesar. You see, I'm getting old. I can't say it very well. I apologize.
So sorry.
Yes. Jesus, are you listening to us?
Right here.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Should I go ahead and begin?
Yes, please, please.
Okay. Well, I was just, first of all, I just want to say thank you to HAMOC, to the staff, Owen, Makeba, and Cesar for letting me participate on this beautiful Sunday in Chicago. And I know it's a day like this that Nicole would have loved to take a walk. I don't know, Carlos, if we're gonna show the video first or. And
Yeah, I got it queued up. I got it queued up. I'll start with it.
Okay, we start, and then I can talk about why that was made and the history of the video.
Fabulous.
You might want to full screen it too.
Nicole Gallery, from the very beginning, has represented artists of African descent. First of all, the Haitian artists are from African descent. And then I began the gallery. The first year I represented Margaret Burroughs, the director of the museum, the Sable Museum. I had exhibition for Jean Spivey Gilchrist, Jonathan Green. They are all great artists now. And later on, in 1988, I began representing the Shona sculptors, some other African artists. The Shona sculptors are from Zimbabwe. And then I began representing artists from Nigeria, artists from South Africa. So it's been a journey with African artists, even though I represent some other artists as well. But the gallery has represented a large number of African artists.
Okay, so the video that you just saw, it's a little short snippet of it. It's about maybe 12 minutes long. And it came out of a series of interviews that were made between 2013 and 2014. My history, just to give you a little bit of background with Nicole Smith, is that I met her while in art school. I had first heard her name through some of my mentors who were professors, of art. One is the late Renee Townsend, who does fabulous sculptures that you can find around Chicago, even up to Maryland, where she had studied. And through Renee, that was the first time I heard of Nicole. So we're talking about early 90s, mid 90s. From there, I started going to openings, but I never felt, I don't know if the word is intimidated, but I never really felt intimidated by Nicole, but she was very gallant. So it kind of like, for me, as a young art school student and feeling, amongst many prominent Black Chicago artists that were at her opening, I kind of just learned to just be quiet and just observe and learn. And if I'm spoken to, well, I talk. But as I got older, of course, as an artist, I had more confidence. And I started actually talking to her. And what I wanted to share with you is in the video is one of the intentions is that between the 90s and 2013, I had noticed that whenever we would think of Haiti, and when I say we, I'm talking about within Spanish-speaking Latino, Latin American cultural circles in Chicago, Haiti was never really part of that dialogue. And that's something I learned early on in art school, the presence of Haiti within Latin American history that's always kind of just pushed to the side. And when we look at artists, I always find it interesting as I was growing up as a young professional artist, that there wasn't really that much of a connection with the Haitian community in the sense of Latino art, meaning, from the Spanish-speaking community. But I knew through the circles, people who were looking at Afro-Latino, that we would always discuss Haiti, but amongst the more mainstream Latin circles, it wasn't something to be discussed. So these were conversations as I started to get when I went to get my master's from the East Coast, and I started to teach in higher ed, I started to approach Nicole and tell her, would she be interested in collaborating with some of my courses that I teach, humanities. And that goes as back as, I think the earliest time was around 2002, 2003 was the first time I ever collaborated with her. And I had a group of students to go to her gallery when it was on River North and look at Drapo, the Haitian banners, and look at the symbology, the bebe symbols, all the things that are really important amongst practices in Haiti. And so from there, I lost touch with her because I was traveling. I have been to, I was fortunate to have residencies in other countries. So when I came back and settled again around 2007, 2008, I started to design a course at a job where I was at on design and focused on Caribbean traditions. So again, I went to Nicole, and that's the thing, like what Owen said earlier, if I can remember, Nicole was very, very approachable. You can call her the phone and catch her, and you could just talk to her. She was pretty much like, if she can talk to you right there and then, you can have a nice talk with her. So I started to tell her about this course, and she says, okay, we can collaborate. At this point, she was already, her gallery in Bronzeville had already closed in the King Drive, and now she was at her studio gallery in Bucktown, as Makeba mentioned. And right at that space, I started bringing in students. We did do, I need to backtrack. We did do a field trip with students right before she left River North. But after that, I had a continual regular relationship of students always going to her galleries. And a lot of the responses from from the visits from Nicole were so positive. So many students, I've never had a response from over 300 students that I may have taken to her over the years, or even close to 500 students, say anything negative. They've always, Nicole was always great at in welcoming people into her space, and then get into the role of educating people. She was really, really great at that. Very sophisticated too in that way. And I think when you have a pleasant demeanor about that, it makes people want to appreciate traditions that they have never heard of. And in the case of Haiti, there's always these negative aspects when you look at, say, Vodou and things like that, and people need to be re-educated to appreciate what Haiti has contributed. So in those videos that we just saw, and I have to, right there, yes, I was part of the production of it, but a real person that was very instrumental of getting these films online is Reggie Gonzalez, who I think is with us today. Reggie Gonzalez is the founder of Illinois Latino Voice. In the 90s, he also worked for the City of Latino Cultural Affairs when Mayor Richard Daley was in office. So I brought in someone that I felt had a platform already in 2013-14 amongst many community prominent people in the Spanish-speaking community. And I told Reggie, and I also knew, like when Makeba had mentioned earlier, that Nicole's health was digressing. It was already, you could tell that things were slowing down. And I thought, I said to myself, you know what? I really think that there need to be some kind of interviews with Nicole, just to document from her point of view. And she was open to it. And I said, Nicole, I really want to make a video that will encompass Spanish speakers into understanding that Haiti is part of Latin America, and to also anybody who's online. And she was fine with it. And so we kind of made a joint venue with Illinois Latino Voice, Nicole, Gallery, and myself. And we ended up doing this really nice videos. That particular video you saw was shown at an event at a college campus, where it was probably one of Nicole's maybe last public appearances, formal appearances, where she discussed, the theme was called Exploring Afro Haiti. So she brought in some actual artwork into the space, and the organization, the event was organized by the Black Student Union. So it was great to see that passing of knowledge of the diaspora. And also because of my presence, there was also a lot of Latino representation and Latinx students that were also there. So it was a really great experience and I really feel fortunate to have been able to do that. And of course, in 2016, that's when, Nicole passed, and it was really sad for me, because like Makeba had mentioned earlier, I did have a friendship with her, not just a professional one, as an educator, as an artist. I've never had the opportunity to show at her gallery, but I was always very instrumental of connecting her to artists. Right before she passed, there was a Mexican artist I introduced her to. And there was a video that wasn't shown today, but there is a video online where a Mexican artist is talking to Nicole, and they're talking about the comparisons between Haiti and Mexico, because a lot of people don't know that, right before Nicole came to Chicago, she did do some time in Puerto Rico studying Spanish, and also had been in Mexico. So she had her experience of Spanish-speaking Latin America, and she's always seen those connections. Even when we used to have lunch right before she passed, I used to go to her space. She used to love Thai food, so I would always in the fall, like Fullerton or Halsted, go to one of the Thai restaurants and get like a cup. She liked to sample, so I would get about 3 dishes, like maybe basil chicken with rice, and then a noodle pasta dish. And I just take the Fullerton bus, get off from Damon, and she had a beautiful little dining room where she had all her beautiful dolls and a lot of her porcelain, little sculptures, little trinkets in a beautiful room. And that was like her little fancy, dining room at the time. So it was really nice eating in there. It felt like almost like an installation. Like I didn't want to eat, and get anything dirty, which is like, no, let's eat lunch here. So we would bring out and have a little, lunch with her. And then those little lunches that I have with her, even though they were very, very small, they were really meaningful for me to get, this kind of more intimate conversations with her. And, like when you're eating, any kind of discussion comes up. So we would talk about family, we would talk about the art world, we would talk about what her plans were to do with Nicole Gallery. And she always would tell me, Jesús, she told me about HAMOC. And that's how I was introduced to Cesar. I was introduced to Cesar because on one of my main field trips with my students, Cesar was there. So that was my first introduction to HAMOC through Nicole and through Cesar. So I remember after meeting Cesar, Nicole was always encouraging me to connect to HAMOC because she really felt that as an educator and also as a practicing artist, my knowledge is pretty vast, that she was always really was impressed by my knowledge of Haitian art history. I don't see myself as any authority, but she was always very impressed and would tell my students, and I would kind of get embarrassed because I don't, her experience is really more important because she advocated the work from, the late 60s, early 70s with the Curator. And so I think that's very important. But I just wanted to say two things that I hope you got out of this 10 minutes with me. Is that one, making those videos is making a connection between, unifying Haiti with the rest of Latin America. Really simple, very educational videos that you can find on YouTube where Reggie has them posted. And the second is to understand that in the last years before, between the last 6 years, 7 years of her life, she was busy educating people and educating a lot of young people who now have graduated and got their professional titles and are in the arts. So I think that's really important that she collaborated as an educator to talk about Haitian art. And that's all I have to share with everyone. So I thank you for letting me share some time to talk about Nicole Smith.
Yes, Jesús, you did a wonderful job, and you bring memories of me and Nicole having dinner on that Thai restaurant. She's the one who introduced me to Thai food. The Thai restaurant on the corner of Chicago Avenue and Dearborn. Great time. And here is a subject that you bring on the table that I wasn't even thinking of that. As far as the relationship between Nicole and the Latin American art scene, it probably wasn't too visible to some people, but let's face it, let's look into the situation where the Haitian art played a big role on the development of the Puerto Rican art. There, unfortunately, it's not today the time to make the Nicole connection. But one thing also, at the time that Nicole's gallery was at the thickest point of its life, Nicole introduced the voodoo flags, who took America by storm, because almost most of the things that she was selling, especially after that exhibit at the museum of, at the big museum in Lakeshore Drive. I forgot, the name doesn't come to my mind. And after that exhibit, which was the biggest exhibit not the Disable Museum, the Film Museum. That exhibit made in collaboration with Nicole was almost one of the largest and the biggest exhibits presented by the museum. And that was a kill. I mean, that was the good old days when Nicole was really on top of the game in Chicago. To my biggest surprise, in 2017, I was at a international conference in Davenport, Iowa, where Elsie, the president of HAMOC, introduced an exhibit presented by the art community center on an exhibit of that was created by a designer from New York in memory of Nicole. And after introductions, the lady presented several costume that was designed, costume and shoes designed in the name of Nicole Smith. And Nicole wasn't only a curator, but she, because of her fashion, the way of dressing, she became so popular, and people will mention how attractive is that lady, because she always has something new and she always has something to offer. And yes, indeed, as much as 2017 on the international art scene, Nicole was still of a presence because also of her fashion. Carlos, I don't know if you have something to show, to say.
Yes, I want to say thank you, Makeba, Jesús, and Owen, for sharing your experiences. I think there is something so powerful in having a meal with someone, and what comes out of sitting down, one-on-one or with a group and eating, being in communion with each other. And so that has really stuck with me, as Jesús was talking about. I think that's very powerful. And like Owen just mentioned on the screen, you just see some photos of the fabulous outfit. And every time I look at this, it just brings a smile to my face. And I think it really speaks on the vibrancy, of Nicole Smith. And again, she could do everything from education, to being a friend, to critiquing art, just the memories that Nicole was able to create, and the communities that Nicole was able to touch, the diverse communities that Nicole was able to touch. I've learned so much about Nicole Smith, and I wish I would have known her, when the time was, the time that she spent at HAMOC. But I am very grateful to have learned about her and the life and the legacy and the positive memories that come out of such a beautiful individual. So thank you, all three of you, for sharing your stories and experiences. I do want to just mention, if anyone in the meeting has any questions for any of the panelists, go ahead and you can put those in the chat and we will relay those to everyone here. As well, if anyone in the meeting has any memories of Nicole that you want to share, feel free to either unmute yourself and speak, or again, you can put it in the chat. Because this is a very memory-based program, memory-based celebration. And I think sharing as much as we can about Nicole would be great. So I'll give a few seconds to see if anyone would like to share anything either in the chat, or you can unmute yourself, or any panelists, if you have any additional things that have come up in the last 45 minutes that you want to share, please feel free.
I have something else to say. Whenever I'm whenever I'm speaking as a panelist, I always forget so many things that I like to say. But my connection to Elsie and HAMOC was through Nicole Smith. And Nicole was just such a regal person. Her favorite color was purple. And the outfit that I'm wearing today is something that she gave to me, and it's purple and embroidered and very regal. And I just, I feel her energy so much whenever I wear it. So I just wanted to share that. She has just left a lasting memory with so many people.
Very beautiful piece. Thank you so much for sharing. I see Mr. Gonzalez, you unmuted. Hi there. Thanks so much for sharing your video. Please, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you very much. And I think I had the pleasure and the privilege to meet Nicole Smith and Jesús, Macarena, Ávila for his persistence to really try to get in touch with her and to sit down with her. And she was very, very gracious. I was letting her into her home, and the video, it was not a professional video, and but she said, Mr. Gonzalez, you are a professional, and she was so humble and giving, and to me, this was the first time that I ever really got involved with Haitian community, and I think this is just the beginning. I am dedicated to helping Macarena and his continue sharing the different cultures, and in a time when unity was needed, Nicole Smith was the pioneer, and she was a pioneer. Unfortunately, the time didn't came, and she's not with us. But I think she's with us in spirit, and I really appreciate that that you were able to see this video, and hopefully you can continue to use it and expound on it down the road, because I'm pretty sure there are a lot of more Haitians that need to be interviewed. And I think this is the beginning. This is the beginning of a friendship where we can unite all the people, and art is the instrument to use. We need it so much right now, peace and unity. And I think we have to embrace art at every opportunity. And I'm thankful that you were able to do this, and hopefully this will continue. And that's all I have to say. Gracias. Bienvenidos a todos.
Gracias, Reggie. I appreciate that.
Yes. Talking about that meeting today, bring souvenirs. I remember in 2006 during the International Conference of Teachers of French, who took place in Milwaukee. Few days before the conference, I get a call from Nicole and said, "Hey, by the way, Nicole used to call me George, which is my middle name, George. I need to be in New York for that exhibit in downtown Manhattan. Unfortunately, no one can replace me. Can you replace me in Milwaukee at the International Conference of Teachers of French?" And I said, "Yes, I have. I'll be grateful to represent you." Indeed, I had the opportunity to talk at the museum in Milwaukee through those Haitian arts and give it to the public, thanks to Nicole. And this is one of the souvenirs that I cannot forget. Carlos, I'm yours.
Yeah, I think that is so special. Again, all these memories that continue to come up, as we speak. There's power in that, and that says a lot. Very quickly, Mr. Gonzalez, I just want to mention again, thank you so much for allowing us to share that video. When we were looking at it before the program started, it was emotional, because you documented her voice and, you know, her speaking, and there is so much power in that. And I think as communities of color, you know, archiving is super, super important. And so having the opportunity to make that video, you know, having Nicole say, hey, this is a professional, you are a professional. I am so grateful that you were able to create that video to save her voice, you know, as a nice reflection. And I'm very happy that it's on YouTube. I did put the link in the chat for everyone to check that out, the full video. Nicole Smith goes more in depth in some of the pieces that she has in her gallery. So thank you, Mr. Gonzalez, for sharing that. And Jesús, thank you so much for bringing that to the table and making us aware. I really think that is a key piece into the program, as well as the memories and the photos from the fashion show and the photos with Nicole. All those are really important to archive and to keep. And this program as well, as part of that archive of Nicole Smith, to continue, again, her life, her legacy, to show everyone that may not have known her and may not ever know her, but to show the impact that she had on so many people. So thank you all for sharing that media, the videos, the images. They all are super, super important. Again, oh, yes.
No, I was just going to add something to what Owen had mentioned, and also what Reggie had mentioned, just to make an extra comment very quickly. So when Owen was speaking about that exhibition at the Field Museum, I remembered I was there. I was our art school student. The most prominent scholar at that time in Chicago on Haitian art was also friends with Nicole. And I remembered, I'm sorry, the name slips from mind right now, it'll come to me, but I remembered that when they were preparing that Nicole played a big role in that. And that was like the first time ever at the Field Museum, at a very mainstream Chicago historic venue, that Haitian art was being showcased out of a curatorial research. And to add to what Reggie Gonzalez was commenting, you know, even though these videos may seem kind of quote unquote lowbrow or low production, like you mentioned, Carlos, the power is in the voice of Nicole there. It's a rare voice, and I knew it as an educator and as a scholar, because just in the Latin community, we've lost so many people from the 90s to now, of artists that never even got to be highlighted in Chicago's mainstream. And I have lived memories of them, many of them that I can list right now. And with technology, well, just say that it was really great that Reggie agreed to do this, because with the technology now, at least Nicole's voice is on there. And like I said again, Reggie has a series of interviews. So there's like around 3 or 4 of them, including even we were trying to help Nicole market, at least Reggie was, and they went together and they did something for like happy holidays, you know, to come and buy art. So Nicole was always, you know, aside from being serious, Nicole also was a business person. So she understood the business very well. And when I would have those little lunches, she would give me a lot of advice about the art world and how it works. And all those little, what I call consejos, which is Spanish for advice, I took them very seriously when she would talk to me, because she knew what was about. As a person of color, as a woman in the Chicago mainstream world, she knew what it was about. And she also knew what it was about in academia, and how in academia, especially white academia, how the way they look at subjects from Latin America, or people of color, or Latinos. So, you know, I learned a lot from my little talks with her, as I did with many of my mentors in Chicago. So I really hope that Reggie's effort there will be immortalized, you know, and with Nicole's voice, and that people will educate themselves of who Nicole was. I'm sorry I'm talking too much, but I just thought
Yes, but Jesus, without cutting you, I mean, you bring to the table today a very important key element. First of all, it is true we are looking at Nicole on a dying day of time, and it's true that Nicole wasn't at her best, but you take a look at the video, which you sent to me earlier, you know, you take a look at the video and realize that not too many people have a collections of flags, you know, to show to the public. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go after the meeting to YouTube to see how many film there are on the collections of flags. That is a key, very important point. In the 70s, Nicole became very successful in selling the voodoo flags after that exhibit. And how many people in the world you had selling Haitian voodoo flags? Not too many people. Nicole was one of the first, and she did bring to us a collection of very serious materials of color. And as a matter of fact, plenty of people in Chicago do have flags in their collection. Indeed, yes. You know, you have a treasure. You have something. Whoever wants to know about Haitian art, and especially about the development of the selling of Haitian voodoo flags, you know, there's a reference, my friend. We need to see you. And I think the museum has some pieces as well. Therefore, Carlos, you have some work to do.
Yes, we do. We are so grateful to have some donated pieces from Nicole Smith's gallery, and we're hoping to continue to highlight those and make those a really integral part of the pieces that we have, and showcase them in the most respectful and uplifting way. And so, yes, we do have some work to do, definitely. And I'm really happy that I can continue doing that work now with just all these vast memories, you know, coming with me. They may not be my memories, but there's so much power in everything that we were able to accomplish this afternoon. And as it is coming up to 6 o'clock, I do want to once again thank you all for joining us this evening. To our panelists, Owen, Moderator, Makeba, and Jesús, Makeba, I apologize, and Jesús. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your stories, experiences. Again, it is a very emotional thing, but I think with that, again, the impact and the archiving and, you know, everything that we're doing here tonight, I know Nicole Smith is looking down on us and she's smiling and she's very proud. Also, to our ASL interpreters, Sarika and Rory, I really appreciate you both being here this afternoon. Accessibility is very important to the museum, and I am glad that we're able to do this. It's super important, so thank you both so much. And to everyone in the Zoom meeting, thank you for being here, sharing your experiences, and hearing about and celebrating the life and legacy of Nicole Smith. Very quickly, I do just want to have a quick announcement. As you all know, May is Haitian Heritage Month, and the museum will continue to celebrate with a new in-person exhibition that is going to be opening safely at the museum this Friday. As well, next Thursday, we will be doing a public virtual tour. And you can check out the details on those events and the other ones we will be having this month on our social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, as well as our website, www.hamoc.org. Again, thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate your time. Have a wonderful rest of your day and your weekend, and we look forward to having you at one of our programs in the future.
Thank you very much.
Carlos.
We appreciate that.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Jesus?